And I'm going to ask the same question I've asked for the last 2 years, if I can just get answer more or less from everyone. Do we have to have more or less power produced in this country?
More.
More?
More?
More.
A lot more.
Significantly more.
Agreed, we need more.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ashland, if I could start my questions with you. There are reports of supply chain delays for dispatchable generation resources, as well as ongoing delays for essential grid components, such as distribution transformers. How important is it to address these delays quickly?
Yeah, I think it's both critical to address the delays quickly, as well as try to be creative with the tools that we do have immediately, and we're trying to do both.
Well, let me follow up. Your testimony also details a striking graph displaying the delta between grid additions and deactivations. How much value is there to bring back mothballed power plants back online to meet either short-term or long-term reliability challenges?
I think it's an important part of the mix, and I think it's an important part of the mix because it requires less reliance on the supply chain. Because these plants exist, and so it's easier in some cases to actually restore them than to build a whole new one. But I think it's part of the solution. If we can get plants back from mothball, we would appreciate
Let me just
that.
follow up real quick on that. In your testimony, you mentioned, you said, how long does it take to build an AI plant?
Data center, maybe 18 months,
Okay, and then how long to build a power generation station?
5+ years,
Is that including the permitting?
including the permitting, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Curran, your testimony similarly discusses the need to allow reliability to inform the pace of retiring generation resources. How can we ensure that the pace of retiring generation resources does not outpace the addition of new resources?
So first and foremost, it's considering reliability in those retirement decisions. Today, as those decisions are made, they are generally driven by policy, in some cases economics, but there is not a check, at least at the MISO, to determine what the impact would be on the ability to have sufficient energy to serve the system.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ashland, if I could go back to you again, your testimony went on to highlight some of the barriers to generation growth, including federal and state energy policies, supply chain constraints, and systematic permitting challenges. As I stated in my opener, the markets you administer do not operate in a vacuum. How are the policies outside the purview of your electricity markets and grid operations causing premature retirements and inhibiting growth in generation development?
Absolutely. So there's multiple, mostly decarbonization policies that are state and federal that have either forced generators to choose between really expensive upgrades that they couldn't afford or to go offline, and have pushed generation offline. I wrote down something you said, Chairman, markets cannot build what governments do not let them. I think we're seeing that. It's also true for power plants cannot operate if governments do not let them. And we have seen policies that do that. And an example of that is the EPA 111D decarbonization policy. And again, I don't make a value judgment. Climate change, in my opinion, is real and needs to be addressed. But I think reliability needs to be addressed also and simultaneously.
Let me follow up one last question to you. I've heard concerns from workers in an Ohio coal plant about what are detrimental effects of the previous administration's policy and recent state-level initiatives that could threaten their jobs. As you grapple with challenges resulting from rapid and widespread retirements of dispatchable generation without adequate replacement, is there merit in pausing the adoption of harmful policies at the federal and state levels?
From a reliability perspective, definitely there is merit in making sure that we don't retire generation that we will need to keep the lights on.
Thank you. In my last 38 seconds, Mr. Nickel, will be real quick if I may. While much of the focus of our electric grid is on increasing demands for electricity from data centers and domestic manufacturing, we also have to make sure the ratepayers are not unduly burdened. As you mentioned in your testimony, SPP enjoys some of the lowest wholesale electricity prices in the country because of your diverse generation mix of renewables and baseload. Will new investments into energy-intensive industries raise costs on ratepayers, or how can these new investments lower price for households? I only have about 3 or 4 seconds.
Yes, it could. It depends on how you do it, and I think we have to be really smart about how we move forward with that. Today, transmission needed to serve new load is spread across the region. It's cost shared. We may not be able to do that when large data centers are located in certain very specific locations. So we're evaluating that now.
Okay, thank you very much. My time has expired, and I recognize the gentlelady from Florida, the ranking member of the subcommittee, for 5 minutes for her questions.